Anchain.AI has been selected as a finalist for next week's RSA Innovation Sandbox competition. They do something that I know very little about in an area with very few competitors, and that's Web3 blockchain security. Their CEO, Victor Fang, came onto the podcast to talk about what the problems that they solve are, who they do it for, how they do it, and the state of the market in which they operate. Don't go away. Welcome to the Sales Bluebird podcast, where we help cybersecurity startups grow sales faster. I am your host, Andrew Monahan. Our guest today is Victor Fang, co-founder and CEO at Anchain.AI. Victor, welcome to Sales Bluebird.
Hi, thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me here.
Victor, welcome to the podcast. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I have two reasons. One is you are a finalist, or Anchain is, in the RSA Innovation Sandbox competition next week. We're recording this the week before RSA. So I'm always interested to hear what the innovation is and the exciting things that you have going on. And then secondly, even though Web3 has been talked about for a while, this is the first time I've talked to someone who's doing officially security at a Web3 company, or Web3 security, as it were. So I'm keen to understand the use cases and what it is you're doing. So we'll dig into that in a minute. All right. So when I look at your LinkedIn resume, Victor, there's a lot going on there. So let me try and pick out a couple of things. I think the common thread through most of it is the idea that your background and your thing that you're doing is all around data science. And there's various companies that you've worked for over the years where that's been a role that you have. I see Amazon on there. I see Dell EMC. You're part of the founding team at Pivotal, part of the founding team at Awake Security, and then you spent some time at Mandiant, all in roles like that. You've also had various advisory roles and involved in various groups as well, kind of alongside your main work. And then fast forward to July 2018 is when you founded Anchain. Two things that I want to draw out of this that I thought were fascinating. One is that you said that your time in Amazon, that you were the person, or you led the team that created the web gift card format or portal that we all use right now. Is that correct?
I would say I'm one of the many engineers there, and but I did wrote the first version of that. It's called a web activated card. I think it's probably the one that you can get now. But back then, it was not that technology. Back then, it's probably like you're writing in a database and then they hook it up. It was not web. But that first version we built together is actually, it's web app activated. It sounds pretty cool, right? It's called WAC, web activated card.
So when I get my gift card and I type in that code, am I typing that into what you worked on back in the day? Is that the idea?
I mean, this is like more than 10 years ago now, but I mean, back then there was I think there was a process of, there was a different way of selling the credit card, right? The gift card. So back then it was hardwire and they distribute it, but web activated is like, those cards is hanging on the shelf now, right? Before you scan it, now it's actually they have zero value. But back then, there was value. You see the difference? So that was back then, if you robbed that supermarket with the gift card, you're actually getting money. You actually got the money. But now, I mean, they have that web activated card. So you scan it, and that's where we in the database we flag it. Hey, this thing is ready to go.
And the other thing I noticed on your resume here on LinkedIn, you play music, and as a math, physics, data science sort of guy, you combine the arts with the science side.
Yes, and to me, I mean, music is, I would say, music and algorithm. They are the same thing. Music and mathematics, they're the same thing to me. They're very, very structured. There was actually, when you really understand it, right? Although people may say, oh, music is so personal and sentimental and all that, right? But there is a music structure there, right? My favorite music is actually like jazz, right? There's an entire theory about it. And I mean, it's very mathematical if you really learn the series and all that. So Yeah, jazz. I actually, this is one of the, I mean, CEO, being a CEO and co-founder is definitely a very stressful job, right? So I'm glad that, yeah, I have that music is with me. So sometimes you just have to unplug yourself, and music to me is actually kind of unplug myself from the stress and all that. I know I would play music, I would play piano, I would play electric guitars and all that. And yeah, it's a very good way to socialize also, right? So yeah.
I love that. So we now got a situation where you need to decompress by being by the lake in your cabin in the woods and playing guitar as well. And then you got the perfect combo right there.
Yeah.
Well, Victor, let's talk about Anchain. So back in July 2018, you co-founded Anchain. Take us back to that moment. What was going on? What led you to the realization this is something that you were going to devote your life to for a few years?
So, I mean, before that, I was running the AIs and all that at Mandiant, right? So, one of the tasks at Mandiant was actually tracing the WannaCry ransomware hackers, right? They're using Bitcoin. So, I mean, when we look at into the transactions and all that, the money flow, Bitcoin flow, I quickly realized that this is actually more than just for ransomware tracing. This is a more fundamental problem, right? And then I happened to study. I mean, I spent a little bit more time onto the smart contract, the Ethereum. That back then it just came out, right? So I look at it, got pretty deep into the EVMs and smart contract solidity, right? And then I feel like, wow, this is probably going to be the layer that will become the software layer on top of the blockchain, right? To me, I mean, back then, I mean, 10 years ago, right? I mean, people in Silicon Valley keep saying that, hey, software is eating the world and stuff like that. To me, back then, 2018 is like smart contract is gonna eat the world, right? And then which is true right now. If you think about today, right, you talk about this cool stuff in Web3, it's all about NFT, DeFi, stablecoin. Guess what? They're all returning smart contract. There's very few people who are building the layer one blockchain. There are people building that, but it's very hard to build those, right? But then it's much easier to develop the smart contract software that is operating on top of the blockchain. So yeah, and then we started the company this summer, right? So and then 2018, I think it's much easier to raise funding. And then also I already have I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? So I have my friends in the VC world in Silicon Valley, and then they say, well, and one thing was actually we have a brunch together with the VC, with friends, right? And I didn't even like thinking about pitching. I'm living very comfortably in Mandiant, right? It's a great company to work for, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening there. But then my friend, my VC friend, like look at the stuff we kind of have some random conversation, and they say, "Oh, Victor, this is you can be a unicorn in this Web3 or blockchain security." There's not that many people are doing that. I mean, back then, I mean, Chainalysis is still a very tiny little startup, right? But it's a very big problem that we are seeing, right? Tracing cryptocurrency and smart contract constantly got hacked and all that, right? So yeah, and then we raised a little bit, like $2 million in the summer, and we start building the company, building the product. That's how we got started.
But Victor, before we go any further, let's get to know a bit more about you. I've got a list of questions here. If you give me 3 numbers between 1 and 35, I'll read out the corresponding question.
17.
17 is, what was your best subject in high school?
Wow, physics.
Physics. I'm surprised. I thought it'd be, given your background, it might be math.
Math is too abstract, and I mean, I like math. I'm good at math also, but physics is has a real world sense. You always feel like you're solving a real world problem, create impact. But math is like very abstract and all that. I like math too, but top one is definitely physics.
I think actually, now you say it like that, I get what you're saying for sure. It's it's a lot of abstractness in math when we learn in high school. My eldest daughter is 16 and she's in a math class, and I look at what she's working on, and my eyes go cross-eyed. So I'm glad she's doing it, not me.
Yeah, and I need to pick 2 more numbers, correct?
Yeah, 2 more numbers.
Okay, let's do 7.
7. What is your favorite summer pastime?
I see. I mean, swimming in the in a lake.
Outdoor
Yeah,
swimming? Yes. Get back to nature. All
yeah,
right. One
outdoor
last
swimming.
question between 1 and
Yeah,
35. One last number.
let's do 25.
25 is Suite at the Four Seasons or Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, I mean, camping in the woods. So I need to unplug. I've been traveling like crazy recently. I want to unplug a little bit. Camping in
Yeah.
the woods.
What you need to do is find that lake you can swim in that's got a cabin right by it, and there you have both together, right?
Yeah, I already have some candidates actually. Yeah, so like Lake Tahoe and all that. It's awesome. Yeah, it's fun.
Who are your customers? I'm trying to piece all this together in my mind because it's not an area I'm not familiar with. Who actually buys stuff from
Hmm.
you, and how do they use that
Yeah,
to actually solve some real problems?
great question. So 4 sectors, right? 4 sectors. One is the government including the regulators like the SEC, and also I mean the law enforcement side of it, right? Um, like including IRS and FinCEN and all that. So the second sector is the layer one blockchain, okay, including I mean Solana, Algorand, Ripple, right? Those great layer one blockchain, right? The third category is the crypto exchanges, that all crypto businesses, and then the fourth category is the enterprise and traditional finance. So these 4 categories. And I would say we develop the same AI power kind of the security technology, but every sector will need slightly different kind of solution, right? But in the core and under the hood is the same technology. So for example, the regulator, they're going to use the product, our smart contract analytic tool to look at the source code, right? To find out inconsistencies in the code, the filing, and all that, right? And then law enforcement using our AI auto tracing to trace down the bad guys to kind of paint a picture of the risk score, the attribution of the wallet, right? Each wallet is just like an IP address. You have to put the entire context around it, right? So contextualize it. So, but then on the private sector, it's slightly different, right? So that's why we feel it's super exciting in the private sector also, right? I mean, the preventative side of it, right? So, for example, we have the API, real time risk scoring API that you can just hook it in, and then whenever you about to make a transaction with this counterparty, a wallet, you send another cryptocurrency to another wallet, you can call our API and we will tell you is that safe to go or not. The biggest problem right now is actually the anti-money laundering. My team just got back from the Tokyo, from the FATF conference, right? So it's a conference hosted for the global regulators, right? All the important regulators are in the same room as us, and we are one of the 3 Web3 security company invited on that table. There's only 40 seats, right? It's good they have 2 seats on the table. So I mean to hear the private sectors actually they need to be compliant with all these rules. There are some serious regulations out there. The anti-money laundering rule out there, right? And then the counter-terrorist financing, right? You do not want to like fund those bad guys. And crypto, I mean, every wallet address looks exactly the same. They randomly look is string, right? But with machine learning and AI, we can kind of attribute a lot deeper and then also a lot faster. Yeah, so that's cover our offering to the private sector and the public sector.
Yeah, let's take the private sector one example. Then I just want to understand that a bit more. So, if
Yeah,
I'm an enterprise, I've got to do anti money laundering things. You know, I've got to follow the regulations, make sure I'm doing all the due diligence that I can. What
yeah.
exactly am I looking for in the transactions that is beyond just like KYC and things like that?
Yeah, this is a great point, right? I mean, KYC right now, I mean, it's required by the BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act and all that, right? But it's more like a static kind of requirement, right? So when you open a bank account or crypto exchange account, you give away all your passports or the driver's license, right? So they prove that, oh, this Andrew is eligible to open an account here, right? But then the transaction side is where most of the problem come from. Right? Let's say there's a website out there and then using you want to donate Bitcoin or pay a payment in cryptocurrency. Right? A lot of people are now doing stable coins to those for these cross-border transactions and all that. So every wallet address looks like exactly the same. It's that random stream looking, right? So our tool can give you more visibility into what you are dealing with. This is called the counterparty risk, okay? And this is more falling to the transaction risk. So our technology can tell you a lot more insights about the counterparty you're dealing with. Is that exchange? Is that just a regular unhosted wallet, right? Or is a guy from North Korea or some sanctioned countries, right? And then when you're dealing with those, you want to be extremely careful. You need to know what you're doing, right? So this is one of the technology we enable the customer, and also, but I think that all the private sector, right? I think this RSA conference, we have this Web3 SOC framework being selected by the RSA, right? It's going beyond that, right? Going beyond basically Web3 SOC is a security operations center for Web3 digital assets. So basically anybody that touch cryptocurrency or digital asset will get value from our platform. We're focusing on the operation side of it. So basically the 5 steps are the NIST framework, right? The identify, detect, protect, and then the respond and then recover, right? So we kind of have a systematic approach out there. So the biggest problem is right now, last year, we find out it's $4 billion of asset being hacked in Web3. And it took them, the NTTD, the mean time to detect is 7 days. It's mind-blowing. 7 days to realize you are hacked. And 32 days to remediate MTTR. 32 days. And the average hack size is $200 million. Okay, those are the real numbers that come up from our research. It's mind-blowing. And compared to the cybersecurity world, it should be less than 5 hours. Okay? And you see this huge gap there. And that's because probably there's no systematic framework. People are saying that, wow, smart contract auditing is important. Let's do smart contract auditing. That transaction screen is important. Let's do that. But no, those are little point solutions. We need a more holistic framework here. If you go to the RSA conference, you see these 6,000 companies, right? They're solving, some of them are solving the more holistic problems out there, right? But it's very important to understand the workflow first. We need to come up with a systematic approach. And the challenge in this industry is the blockchains and smart contract, they are all decentralized. They are not running the AWS or GCP or your data center. They are literally that transaction being mined anywhere globally, as long as you can have the hash power to compute it, right? And literally that payment is borderless. Anybody can make that transaction. So all these different factors and the uniqueness about the Web3 is making it super challenging. And we step in to try to come up with a systematic framework to let's come up with some metrics first, right? MTTD and MTTR. Can we do better than that? Can we, with our effort, we hope to cut down 30 days of MTTR all the way down to maybe seconds. It's possible, but you need to have that mindset there. And this is a lot of lessons I learned from my past experience and Mandiant and Away Securities and even Pivotal. At Pivotal, I was running the cybersecurity data science team. So we actually have turned a lot of the machine learning and the automatic, the AIs and all that into production. So it's possible. It's just we happen to be the first one that I consider super lucky to kind of tackle this untapped market. Yeah.
You mentioned being the first one, and I get it's difficult, but why are there so few other players trying to tackle this right now? It seems like there's just not many of you out there.
No, yeah. One is I don't think crypto is even a mainstream, right? It's still very a niche market, I would say. But one thing we know, and then the second, it's the barrier to entry is super high. Look, to own a crypto wallet right now is not like starting an email in Google, right? You have to know what those those different, like for example, how the wallet was created. You have to understand the cryptography of it, right? Otherwise, if you share the private key out there, anybody can wire the funding, right? It's kind of the security and the usability is pretty hard right now, right? But hey, I mean, the cryptocurrency market, I mean, the entire Web3 industry is $1 trillion business now. It's $1 trillion alternative asset, and it's going to continue to grow, right? And then last year itself, $4 billion were hacked. It's a big problem, and some of them are involved into the APT group. That, I mean, back in the day at Mandiant, we already, I mean, deal with those guys before, right? The North Korea Lazarus group. It's not new. It's just the same group of people. And no, now these guys are innovating into the exploiting the blockchains and Web3 because they figure out that, hey, this is actually more lucrative and a lot faster than trying to hack into a bank to exfiltrate the data. And then they have to try to sell it in dark webs and all that, right? But hey, if you hack into that, for example, the Harmony and the Ronin network, you're making $600 million from that Ronin hack. They got their money, like they hacked like $600 million in one night. And then the Ronin team, it took them like a week to realize their hack. It took Harmony 1 day to realize their $100 million are gone. It's slightly better than Ronin, but still it's a day to realize that you're hacked. Those are the big problem right now that we aim to fix.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I look at the ransomware as a big thing these days, but people are looking for, 50, 100K, a few $100,000, and you contrast that with, I think you said the average was 200 million. Very lucrative compared to, I think, a 100K ransomware attack, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's because like the cryptocurrency, because it's borderless and so fast, right? You can run your smart contract or whatever infrastructure there. You set a wallet there, and people will start chipping in money into that pool. And what if that pool has a hole that only the hacker knows? And boom, they can siphon the fund. Overnight, and then they will start using those crazy technology like chain hoppings or like cross chain bridge or like tornado cash, right, to start obfuscate the fund, and then eventually they will sell it in some of the big exchanges like Binance and Coinbase and all that, right? That's usually the flow. But the point here is the APT groups and all that, now they're seeing that, hey, this is actually much easier to make money out of this other than, 6,000 companies in RSA, right? A lot of them. They have all these big banks have like $100 million of security budget every year. Right? They ended up buying everything. That makes the hackers job a lot harder to penetrate into those parameters, right? But then they realize that, hey, the layer one blockchains and all these DeFi protocol, NFTs and all that has a lot of loopholes there, and they're making a lot of money. The hackers, APT groups like Lazarus Group, they're quite successful in monetize those. So it has to be fixed. So that's we come up with a framework, the Web3 SOC. Yeah, let's see. I think we're very confident that this is gonna. This is gonna finally have a more formal kind of approach towards it. We come up with some physics to the world.
Yeah. So when you said at the start, Victor, that you're going after four groups, four target markets, a little shiver went down my spine as I thought about a startup trying to, figure out the go-to-market for four different groups of targets. How are you doing that? Is it centrally led, and really you're doing a very big top-downs approach, or is it more about the cliff face trying to work on a BD side to get going in some of these markets?
Great question, right? And that's kind of resonate well. One of my hobby, I'm a musician. I play jazz, so you got as a startup founder, you got to improvise. But improvise doesn't mean random. Okay, there's structure. You need to know, like for example, if you're improvising in a band or like improvising jazz, you need to know where the key, which key you're using, which scale you're using, right? So it's the same thing here. So we're a technology company. We know this, and we're solving a security problem that set the tone, right? So, but eventually, I would be, trying to fool you if I say I know all the answers in day one, 2018. Our first customers back then was one of the layer one blockchain that now is, I think they already disappeared, right? This is how fast the industry is moving, right? But then turns out that, well, hey, the same technology, the machine learning and AI product, the technology we developed actually find its marketplace. Its market position in, for example, the regulator and the law enforcement, and then also the private sector and all that, right? So, but there's a certain pockets that we already identify in the space. BD wise, we like those is different offering, right? They're the same exact under the hook. It's the same engine that we build, but there's a different form factors when you try to sell to different sectors. So there's a product marketing side of it, right? So we learn a lot. And I think we just there's a startup in this early and emerging market, rapidly shaping market, right? You gotta know how to improvise, right? But in the core, we're a technology company. We're very laser focused on the security problem.
And as one of the things you said was that you're getting the word out and trying to educate people on the risks out there in this whole world. What are you doing that's really working for you to try and evangelize that problem to people?
It's a great question. In fact, in the past 4 years, right, we lecture at UC Berkeley. That's where we're affiliated with, right? By the way, we came out from the Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator back in 2019, right? And so Berkeley, we've been lecturing at Berkeley, right, and then also Harvard, right? So we realized it is not enough to lecture the academia, right? And we actually just launched earlier this year the Anchain University. We turned some of those training right into those courses that they're open to everybody, and I think that's our way of to kind of raise the awareness and then also provide some knowledge that how the experts in-house in Anchain are trying to, that we can crack some of the problem using our technology, right? And we open up our product for the students that take the course, right? Other than some of the competitors, they just keep their tools super secretive, right? But I think it's a technology we all need to learn, and then this is definitely I think the cybersecurity job market is like short for like 600,000, right? But it's the cybersecurity market in general. There's a shortage on the talents and all that, about 600,000. But in Web3, in blockchain security, oh my goodness, it's not even like you like. Let's say Andrew, you post a job opening on there looking for a blockchain security guy. Guess how many you will get? Probably close to zero, right? So, but I think it's our mission to kind of. It's very hard. If you try to hire this guy and the day one they can start working on the smart contract and all that, no, you're not going to find anyone, right? So, with our training programs and all that, hopefully we can help educate and bring more awareness. And those problems are real, like the APT groups now are getting into that, and that's what probably like why the RSA conference see the reference, the relevance of what we're doing. Like there's a close link to what they like. For example, the incident response company, threat intel company, the cybersecurity are already doing. Like for example, Lazarus Group, we know it for a while. It's not new. So yeah.
Well, Victor, it's fascinating hearing about this. A lot of this is new to me, so trying to understand it and learn about it has been a really useful exercise for me and hopefully for the audience too. Wish you every success and luck for next week. On Mondays, the actual day of the Innovation Sandbox, and I guess you all get to present, and then the panel will choose the winner. So, wish you good luck for that. If someone wants to get in touch, what's the best way to do that?
So I'm on LinkedIn, right? So Victor Fang, school my name, and also I'm on Twitter, and those two channels are probably the best way to reach out to me. Yeah.
That's great, and
Cool.
I'll catch up with you next week at RSA. I'll make sure to find you out, and we can have a quick chat. And I wish you and the team every success for the rest of the year and into next year. Well, Victor's very knowledgeable and passionate about working in the Web3 space and solving these real pretty substantial problems that everyone's facing in that area. A bunch of takeaways, I'm sure, for you, two for me today. One was going after 4 markets. At first glance, it seems like a lot, but I don't think from what he was saying they need to do, big top-down, sales-led, go-to-market motions in each of those areas. And there seems to be some overlap between them as well. So I wonder if the success they're going to have is going to be maybe more favored to 1 or 2 of them just naturally, or they're going to be able to do well in all 4 of those markets. And the second takeaway for me was how hard it must be to work in this area. As he said, there's not many people that have the knowledge and the skills and the experience to really understand it and then develop products for it. And it's very complicated by the different players that are in there, the nature of what you're dealing with in terms of a decentralized model and things like that. So really tough to bring anything to market, which probably helps in terms of making sure there aren't that many competitors in the space. I think he even said there's a big barrier to entry. So I wish Victor and the Anchain team every success and luck for next week at the Sandbox competition. It's on Monday of next week. We're recording this on April 20th, 2023. And I also wish them every success for 2023 and beyond.